So, welcome back to A Sort of Young Person's Guide to Prog Rock, and we are continuing on part 2 of Yes's 1971 Fragile. So, welcome back. We come to the bit of tinfoil that got caught in the sandwich. 5% for nothing. So, from the... I was like, what do you say about this song? And the Chris Welsh Yes biography, which is very good, said it the best it will ever be said. This is 35 seconds of Brufordian angst that seem to say... I'm sick of this industry, and I'd rather be in King Crimson. There is, however, some lore. Apparently, every measure is different. So I think he wrote every measure in the song to be just a little different. So it's legendary in its own way.
My only note is that it's thankfully short.
Yep. Yep.
I didn't want to talk about this song, and then I ended up maybe spending more time researching this song than any other song on this album. I have no shame that a lot of my research for this podcast starts with Wikipedia. But I have to just comment on the article itself. For a 35-second song, the Wikipedia article is 2,394 words, which is about 5 pages for a 35-second song.
Yep.
But Ian, do you want to tell us about the name of the song and the backstory there?
Yes, of course. So 5% for nothing. So basically, as far as I understand... I mean, it's a song about management who basically took 5% of their royalties, I guess, for what Bill Bruford perceived to be absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so Roy Flynn was the original manager of Yes and worked with them for the first 2 albums, and he did a lot to get them going. He got them on Atlantic, but ultimately the band felt that Roy was holding him back, and it ended up replacing him. But his exit plan, his compensation, was 5% of the royalties into the future. Which infuriated the band, obviously because they became far more successful later. And there's probably a lot of litigation, and I don't think this guy's crazy wealthy, so they maybe bought him out at some point. But one thing I thought was really interesting is in 1968, so right, this is a brand new band at this point, the band got him a very, very nice Dunhill lighter, which is like a very famous English brand of lighters, for a cigarette or a cigar.
Yeah.
And he was very proud of it, and he talked about it a lot because there is a card, and the lighter and the card got auctioned by Bonhams in 2009 for £864, which I know that was a while ago, but to me, for a vintage lighter, and to give you an idea, a vintage lighter from Dunhill, that goes anywhere between $200 and $500. So double, triple that for a pristine one with an interesting provenance associated with Yes. I might spend that much money on that lighter if I was given the chance. Like, maybe that's sad. I don't have better things to spend my money on. But think about it. £894, that's not that bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, that seems like a bargain. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm in my mid-30s and have stupid money to spend now. But I thought it was interesting. And let me read the card, actually. And I think this is ironic given what happened to the band later. It says, "To Roy Flynn, who has done more for us than any other man put together in the pop music business. Looking forward to a long, happy association. Hope this small gift will enlighten you as much as you've enlightened us. A very happy Christmas. Yes." And that card is signed by all members of the band. And keep in mind, this was 1968, so obviously the lineup was a little different. But yeah, if that came up for sale again for the same amount of money, I don't know, guys.
Well, we can expense this one.
I was going to say, with all that Patreon money that's pouring in, got to spend it on something.
I spent 170 Australian dollars on an Anderson Bruford Wakeman Howe t-shirt, so you can get an idea how fiscally responsible I am.
Your one mistake, Brian, was mentioning on this hugely successful podcast. Our fans will try and outbid you just because you brought it up.
I'm go broke because of a bidding war over this lighter. I actually want to buy a vintage Dunhill lighter, which is partially why I went down this rabbit hole, because it was lining up with some of the research I've been doing. So this might be the longest we talk about a song in this album. This is what I didn't want to happen, and here we are.
Yeah.
I think it's the longest conversation I've ever had about a lighter. I'm legitimately enthralled by it.
So the only thing I actually wrote about the song itself was kinda just nonsense.
Yeah.
So
I'd say that's a pretty fair reading. So fun little tidbit fact for this. This was released as their second single off this album. The 7-second edit.
Damn it, Ian. You couldn't even get through it.
So bad. Okay.
Actually,
Oh, God.
this song has a polar opposite. This song is the opposite of Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You, because that song's about her former producer, who was, insane and abusive and,
Oh my God.
controlling, all the things you'd expect like a stereotypical bad producer to be. And in typical Dolly fashion, she writes a song and it is genuine. I Will Always Love You. Like, she forgives him. Like, everything's great. That's what that song's actually about. This is the opposite. It's just Bill with his middle finger saying, I want to be in King Crimson now.
Yeah.
I hate the music business.
There's something about being the guy that brings up, like, hey, everybody do a fun little vignette, and then his is just absolute garbage.
I wasn't actually serious, so shit. Oh no. I gotta do one.
I mean, that's the science fair day where you realize you haven't done the project. I made shoes for a fly. Don't look; they're microscopic.
I was going to say, you think you can get away with the baking soda and vinegar volcano, but it's 10th grade. It's not going to cut it anymore.
But somehow the song also just feels stretched out. Even those 35 seconds. It's like, to use your school analogy, Ian, it's like doing a book report. And, to get to that, 500 word count, you're like, this was a really, 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 really good book. And you're just, watching the counter go up, almost there.
Fantastic. Okay. So, 5% for nothing. So we come back to the land of the living with Long Distance Runaround. So this is a song, as we all know, that's about Vietnam. And this is... Really? Woo. Okay. So this is another one of Yes's Vietnam songs. And honestly, it's about as close to pop as I can imagine Yes ever going. 3 minutes. But even within those 3 minutes, they hard shift a lot between the intro riff and super intense verses and stuff. So, Long Distance Runaround.
It's not a particularly well-known fact, but Francis Coppola couldn't get the rights for this to use in Apocalypse Now. Otherwise, this is what we'd associate with Vietnam, and not Fortunate Son or anything like that.
Again, this is part of the lore that they're like, yeah, Vietnam. I guess Hot Summer... I don't know, something about protests maybe. I'm vibing. I don't know.
Hot color melting the anger to stone?
Yeah, something like that.
Can you imagine at a charity protest concert against Vietnam? You have Buffalo Springfield, you have all these, big hits, and then Yes come on stage and just and then just
This is Yes channeling their rage.
Fuck pigs. Any other thoughts about Long Distance Runaround? It's fun. It's poppy.
Yeah, I like that they always stick to their guns, and the riff is just slightly. It's not super pleasant all the way through. It's hey, this is kind of fun, but then it's not perfectly pop.
Yep.
Is my take on it. And the only other thing, other than this is probably the song I've heard the second most out of Yes, I would wager. But it gets a little Beatlesy in the middle there, with some of the jaunty, just like piano chords that are just played repetitively. It kind of reminded me of like a late Paul Beatles jaunty tune.
Yeah. It's got like the magical mystery energy.
Well, it breaks that, this could be a pop song, but they throw a little something in there again. There's another pimento in the sandwich because the drums are playing at a different time signature than the rest of the band.
Right.
Also, are we eating this sandwich from the top down?
Yeah.
Vertically, layer by layer. Yeah. Just watching Nick bore through the sandwich like a weevil.
Yeah, it's like I'm taking a core sample out of my sandwich. I just go straight down. That's the carrot.
But yeah, no, you are absolutely right. Like, it just has that little bit of fun extra-ness that Yes brings. So yeah, lovely.
I love that Ryan brought this up because I wasn't going to bring it up, but I was like, time signature ? I was like, what is happening here? Something felt weird, and I wasn't able to put my finger on it. Maybe, Ryan, you can enlighten me exactly what's happening here.
Well, the reason it sounds somewhat normal is everybody else is playing 4/4. I actually don't know what the drums are playing, Ian. It's not 4/4.
Yeah.
And so it's a polyrhythm, and they don't match, and it screws with your brain just a little bit where you're like, okay, quite literally, mathematically, this doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the snare hit is not hitting on 3.
I don't know what Bill is doing, but yeah, it's different. But everybody else is playing in 4/4.
Yeah. And not just playing in 4/4. They're playing like just dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it's like 4 on the floor.
Like 4 on the floor. And then I think to have Bill doing something completely opposite does give this song that little bit of extra yes-ness that we've come here for.
Your ice cream sundae has an olive somewhere.
Has one olive. Fabulous. Anything else about this song? Which smoothly transitions into The Fish. Brackets Schindlerira Primordius. So The Fish is Chris Squire's solo composition for this album. Honestly, it's probably my favorite one. It's just a good little bass build, and it actually has the same kind of We Have Heaven vibes, except on bass, where it's just 2 minutes of kind of mantra-like repetition.
Are those bass harmonies?
Yeah, I think he might be playing bass harmonics.
Or harmonics, yeah. Because on a bass, you must have to play it so high that it sounds like it could be a guitar.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I've never tried. But I would agree this is in my top 3 of the vignettes.
Top 3 of 5.
Top 3 of 5. It's not saying much.
High honors.
But I don't know. We Have Heaven's pretty good.
Yeah.
This one is in pole position in second place.
Yeah.
It's just it's really smooth. It's in danger of becoming too close to almost becoming elevator music, but it doesn't quite cross that threshold.
Yeah.
It would be fun to watch him play it, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I actually have no idea if they ever played this live, nor how they could have, but
I would love to hear somebody like drunkenly shout out of the crowd. Yeah.
What's interesting about this song, and I like it, but compared to the other 4, the other 4 are like highlighting, I feel like, that musician's strength in a way, whereas this one just seems more like a song, like a regular song to me.
yeah.
And maybe that's just the virtue of being a bassist. It's kind of hard to have like a bass song, because I feel like you could stretch a drums out in a way.
Yeah.
Probably more than 35 seconds, but could have tried a little harder. Obviously, piano and singing is easy, but it'd be hard to have. I mean, what's the longest bass solo in history? Like 15 seconds?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's part of the challenge of his role.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I feel like for a song constructed of bass, this was as good as it gets. The bass part for Roundabout, if you really listen to it, it's frickin' divine. Like, it's an incredible bass part. But man, isolating that as its own song would have been brutal. And so I think that also because his bass style is very aggressive. So yeah, you're right. This is not a Chris song. This is a very delightful song played by Chris on bass, but it's not highlighting what Chris can do. The other little bits of info for this is the reason they chose Scheinlemuria primordius is he literally just needed a fish name in Latin that was 8 syllables, and then they accidentally gave him one that had 9. So that was that.
Yeah, it's spelled wrong.
Yeah.
The name of the fish is Schindleria prematura, which means Schindler's Fish, which is the oft-forgotten sequel to Schindler's List.
I heard that Spielberg didn't sign on for that one.
The direct-to-DVD sequel.
Jesus Christ.
It'd have to be a washed-up WWE star. It's like Goldberg is Oscar Schindler. Why don't I write movies? God.
It's a shame you haven't been asked.
I keep writing, but no one's asking.
Whew, okay. So why is it called The Fish at all, Brian?
I don't know.
So, Ryan, why is this called The Fish?
Okay, this is well known. Chris Squire had a big mouth Billy Bass shaped bass guitar. That's why they called the song The Fish. I can't believe no one knows that. That's so embarrassing.
So, Chris Squire loved taking baths, so his friends called him The Fish.
And these are just garden variety baths. There's nothing
special about them.
Nothing funny about it?
Nope.
But, wait a minute, Ian. Wasn't Chris Squire huge, like 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah.
Like, as our British expert, are baths or baths bigger in the UK? Like, I'm not that tall. I'm 5'11", and I don't feel that comfortable on your typical shower bath combo, right?
Yeah.
It's just not quite big enough for me to feel fully submerged.
Gotta be honest, I don't know the mechanics of his bathing. And maybe his legs like hung over the side. Maybe it was just a torso bath.
That'd actually feel kind of nice.
But yeah, so there you go. So that was his nickname, Fish, the Bath Man.
Yeah.
Why would his friends know that?
You know, to be fair, if you guys took a lot of baths, I would notice. Like, I think...
How would you know?
No, I think, frankly, as an adult, I'm like, the default is you're taking a shower. And I was like, oh, that's Ryan. He's in the bath again. And we like, yeah, no, this is why we call him Fish.
He disappears for 45 minutes every night.
And I feel like if we were on tour together, and you're like, okay, you guys, like, you know, I'll see you guys downstairs for dinner or whatever. And it's like, yeah, Ryan's bathing himself in the bath again. Yeah, I would comment.
It's in their rider for the theater that they have to have a bath backstage.
Yeah. So now we go to the last of the solo compositions, Steve Howe's Mood for a Day. So this is more classical than his last solo piece, Clap, which he played on the Yes album. So a quick history of the classical guitar, very, very quick. So some sort of stringed lutish instrument was invented somewhere, maybe in Greece, maybe in Anatolia, maybe in India, maybe in Persia, who knows. At some point, it was brought to Spain through either the overland route through southern Europe or during the Moorish invasion where the Almohad Empire invaded southern Spain. At any rate, when it arrived, it slowly developed into the 6-string guitar we know and love today and was then used as a solo instrument in Baroque music. So there you go. That's your classical guitar background for today. But this brings up 2 salient points. A, this is why when you hear classical guitar, you always think of Spain. And B, for the non-guitarists out there, finger picking and picking with a pick are 2 very different skill sets. And the fact that Steve was amazing at both proves just how good he is at guitar. And thirdly, this song captures just a nice little day. It is his mood for a day. It's a nice song.
So in terms of the 5 individual tracks, this one's definitely my favorite, and it's not just because I play the guitar. I think it's the most impressive, but that's not why I like it. It's just a very delightful snapshot of Spanish guitar And it's something you don't hear a lot, especially in this time period, on the timeline of music. You don't hear a lot of Spanish guitar in the 70s. I mean, even now. So it's just a fun little injection of something different in a way that I liked a lot more than Cons and Brahms.
Yeah.
It could have ended up being that way if it wasn't so well done.
Yeah. But I feel like he sustains the interest for a full 3 minutes, which is impressive.
Yeah, because there's a lot of changing parts. I wouldn't have been able to tell you it was 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
This is my favorite of the solo pieces. I mean, I think if your mission is to show off and do something unique, I mean, who does it better than Steve Howe? You know, I'm getting the classical gas vibes, and not that we really need a reminder, but how goddamn good Steve Howe is. In the relatively recently published Rolling Stone 250 Greatest Guitarists of All Time, Steve Howe barely made the bottom half of the list at 123rd.
Wow.
What? That's
Which-
insulting.
It is. I mean, obviously, it's a pretty broad. You know, it's all guitarists, all genres of music. But I mean, you know, and I don't know a lot of these guitarists, but is, say, for example,
He's going to say Jimi Hendrix. Is this guy even a fucking guy?
Okay, and I'll actually name someone from a band I like, Lindsey Buckingham. Love Fleetwood Mac. Is he a better guitarist, a greater guitarist than Steve Howe?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is ridiculous.
Is Lou Reed 89? Again, love Lou Reed, but is he, when you think of Lou Reed, are you thinking of his you know, fucking slanging on the guitar?
Yeah.
And actually, Peter Green. So 2 Fleetwood Mac guitarists are higher rated than Steve Howe.
Steve Howe. Yeah.
Oh.
No, and I feel, because I think Steve Howe won Guitarist of the Year for the Village Voice this year, 1971 or 1972. But like Steve Howe at the time was lauded as the best guitarist. And I feel like Fine, you know, Yes isn't the most popular band on earth. But I feel like if you like guitar, Steve Howe's name goes in that world. You know, for the guitarists out there, I think he's in the John Bonham space for drums. He's one of those guys. So, jerks.
Come on, he is literally slaying the guitar. The guitar is smoking on fire from how hard he's playing. At 123rd, anyways. Fuck off.
No, I'm 100% with you. I do. I feel the pain. I do feel the pain. So we love you, Steve, and we love you, Mood for a Day. So we come then to the final part of the Ciabatta, Heart of the Sunrise. So this is a song apparently about being lost in the city or staring into the heart of the sunrise, the well of creation, or whatever John Anderson called it. So I think this song has kind of 2 things for me. So A, this is Chris Squire's best song. The bass on this song is highlighted and it's outrageous. And I think Chris even said, yeah, I always think about this as my song. And then the other bit, I think this really does probably the best Yes ever does with light and dark. So there's very hard switches between verses, there's time signatures, and then also they do my favorite Yes trick. They repeat the same verse in different contexts.
Mm-hmm. I think this song shares a lot in common with South Side of the Sky in terms of its arrangement, in that it goes to a peak. It actually it's not like a rising, like swelling peak, but it starts out pretty hard and then it goes down to like a more like chill middle, and then it goes back to the peaks again in terms of the volume output of the song. Like the middle is a little bit more chill. Yeah. And if Yes wants to defy patterns as a band, this might be the one pattern that I've identified of theirs, is that they start strong in terms of the way that they're playing, like they're playing hard, and then they chill out for a little bit in the middle, and then they go back to that again to finish it out.
Well, they get tired.
Yeah.
That's the part where they're all soaking their hands in ice. Yeah.
And, you know, practicality is something that I don't often consider when I think of a song's construction, but that is actually a good point.
I think compared to their other, 10-minute plus songs, this might be in terms of a spotlight, maybe the best of John Anderson's vocals, right? Because where compared to say
Yeah,
like Close to the Edge, where you have rock and guitar, you have these big keyboard solos. This is such a great John song.
yeah,
Fully uses his voice, and I think this is a perfect close to the album. I mean, they really stuck the landing. I think one of the few criticisms I have of Close to the Edge is I kind of wish they would have reversed the order of the songs and ended with Close to the Edge, because that would have been the perfect ending
yeah,
rather than the other way around. But man, does this go out with a bang.
yeah.
So, perfect ending.
It is. It's perfect. It's epic. And then I think, he's saying this is the full range of John Anderson's kind of vocals. He's soft, he's quiet, he's shouting, he's, staring into the sun. It's all great. Let's talk about his lyrics. Here we go. So this song for me highlights why I love Yes, because even though I have no earthly idea what the songs are actually about, the lyrics mean so much to me. And when I'm listening, I'm like, yeah, I totally know what a sharp distance is. Of course. Like, it's a phrase we all use. So I'd say his lyrics, yeah, there's something about them that they mean a lot, and maybe it's because you have to work to figure out what you think they mean.
Was Heart of the Sunrise a wholly original phrase that he came up with?
I can't imagine so. I'd be willing to bet it was in the New Age spirituality that I'm sure he was dipping his little toes into.
Ooh, yes. Yeah.
Also, this song specifically, there's a quality in the lyrics where it sounds like he's got two songs playing and he keeps on flipping back and forth between two different sets of lyrics.
From doing this podcast, I've learned better than to look up the lyrics to Yes songs, because they don't really inform anything for me in terms of the song's nougaty core, or like what the point of the song is. But I've stopped hating on the fact that they don't make any sense, because it clearly means something to him. And I think for him, that's what's more important than us getting some deep, profound meaning out of it. And I think that's why it comes off so well. And
I mean, he totally sells these lyrics.
yes.
Like he's out there saying sharp distance, and you're like, oh my God, who hurt you, John? Or something.
Well, it's just because his vocals in the song are so evocative just by themselves.
Yeah.
He could be scat singing and it would still work.
I mean, he kind of is. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, go on.
in a clinical setting, we call it word salad. No. But you mentioned earlier, both you and Brian mentioned earlier, like this is some of the best use of his vocals. I don't mean this as a not a compliment either. He is straining to perform this. Like, this is testing his limits as a vocalist. And it comes across as genuine, and that feeling is so strong it almost doesn't matter. I think you can just assign whatever meaning you want to the lyrics, and it works.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that everybody has commented on, like, this is the quintessential John Anderson song, when maybe it's just because this is Yes and because it is a long song, is that there's no vocals until after 3 minutes in. So you've got like basically a whole pop song length of no vocals before you even get to the John Anderson part, which is a testament to, Yes's ability to arrange songs. That the best part of a song doesn't even come in until 3 minutes, and you're still like, yes, this is what I want. This is what I'm here for. So I think this song does it for me as even like a, casual prog listener.
Yeah, I think actually kind of like Roundabout, it has all of the bits you want from Yes.
And it's, again, highlighting the positivity of John Anderson as well. Like, even though, like, he's straining and, like, there's clearly, like, a lot of dramatic tension, but there's also a lot of use of major chords to sort of soften that edge. And he really fills that space with his vocals, too, to, sort of give you I guess I'll bring it up again, that there's a duality of, like, dramatic tension and release.
Yeah,
So.
delicious light and dark.
Well, Nick, it's fun that you mentioned too the fact that a whole 3 minutes goes by before you even get to any vocals, and I mean that's not too dissimilar to like what Pink Floyd does, with which shine on. And there are several even false starts where you think, okay, there's the meat of nope. And then in this case, you get into another round of and
Yeah.
they fake you out several times. And that's, kind of reminiscent of that. And then finally it comes.
Yeah. The delicious sourdough we were all waiting for.
Wait, it's a sourdough ciabatta burger with a carrot on it, a capicola, and a little bit of tinfoil, and pimentos.
We got some pimentos. I think we got some capers in there.
Okay, what a sandwich is constructed.
What a sandwich. Here. So those of you out there, please make the sandwich. Show us what you got. It sounds decent. It sounds very tall, but it sounds decent.
Yeah, it's hashtag fragile witch on Twitter, I guess.
The fragile witch.
I really hope there are YouTube videos later of, again, our countless fans. They make the sandwich, because that happens with the Larry David. There's plenty of YouTube videos of people making that, eating it.
The Larry David.
Yeah. So they're going to have to make the
fragile
witch.
Have
to make a fragile sandwich.
So finally, we come to the album cover. So this is Yes's first outing with Roger Dean. So Roger Dean was a painter who did posters and album covers in the scene. And Phil Carson, one of the executives at Atlantic, had just seen his album cover for the Afro rock band Osibisa, which is a winged elephant. And he was like, I've got this band. Yes, they need a cool album cover like that. You should give it a try. So Roger Dean came up with The Fragile Planet, which is a teeny little bonsai world breaking apart with a sweet little glider watching it from above, a little Leonardo da Vinci glider. So I've got nothing too much to say about this, except for this sets up I call them topographic designs, because they have a real terrain energy to match John's metaphysical terrain lyrics. So I think this was ultimately a match made in heaven.
Was he exposed to any of John's lyrics before he did the artwork, or vice versa?
I don't know. Obviously, he will have later listened to the albums. I'm not sure if they sent him a preprint, unlike someone like Genesis or even Pink Floyd. The Yes album covers don't really relate to the music in any way.
I think despite that, though, I can't think of a band better matched with its design language of its album covers. To me, this is it perfectly fits. Compared to, say, the other famous prog album designer, Storm Thorgerson, his are also different. I mean, they're all amazing in their own way, but I view it, Yes, and in Roger Dean as Elton and Bernie, right? They're just perfect together, and they're contributing totally different things.
Yeah, but it was just a perfect match. Yeah,
it's the superficial missing piece of the band having these beautiful, beautiful covers.
Yeah, this is my favorite Yes album cover, and it's Roger Dean's highly stylized, and also imagination I really enjoy, because you're not just throwing things on the canvas, you're telling a story a little bit here, and I think that's it's so pleasant to look at. Whenever we do these recordings, I usually have the Wikipedia page open, and I'm almost exclusively just staring at the album cover the entire time.
Yeah, it draws you in.
It really does. The use of color is really great. There's just a lot to love about the album cover. I think his style is almost synonymous with the band.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As you guys said, it's just perfect marriage of visuals and music. Funnily enough, when you said there's a story in there, fascinating tidbit about this album cover. John Anderson would then take this album cover and make it into his 1975 solo album, Elias of Sunhillow, where he expands on the story we were all waiting to hear about the Morglade mover, the Da Vinci spaceship on the fragile world that was breaking up. So we will, in fact, be covering that album someday.
I was going to say, Ian, I'm getting so many requests for us to cover Eliza Sunhillow. I can't, the text, the emails, I can't keep up.
They're flooding in.
I'm going to have to ask the fans to stop messaging Brian about Elias of Sunhillow.
Leave Brian alone. Anyways, so John used this album cover as creative grist for his mill. So there you go.
Well, would this be a good time to consult our good friend Bobby Kreisgau?
Absolutely. Take us away.
Fragile is actually his highest rated Yes album of the ones that he wrote reviews on. I certainly prefer Yes's rock classical synthesis, in it which tricky intros, swooping dynamics, and intense textures are integrated into a self-sustaining and propelling electric framework. TLP's flashy chopmanship. Roundabout is a triumph right down to its nature mystic lyric. The rhythm players each contribute a viable composition. Steve Howe remains a marvel, and even the rearranged Brahms from new keyboard player Rick Wakeman is tolerable.
Yeah.
But isn't there supposed to be more to art than great contrivance? B.
Wow. I'd say that's pretty fair. I mean, from him, and again, we give the handicap that takes it up to an A+.
The Prague handicap for all Kreisgau reviews.
Yeah, no, I'd say that's a pretty good rundown on all of it. And in fact, it's funny, and I guess we'll get to that now. So Yes is about to do Close to the Edge, an even bigger, better album. And that overshadows Fragile so much for me. It is so nice to come back to this, to this album. And I guess kind of the 3 albums we've been doing in this little mini-series here, so Metal, Fragile, and Trilogy are what I call, and I'll throw in Nursery Crime from Genesis and ELP from last season. So these are the fun tapas albums, so the little tasters, where I feel like you get a little bit of what these albums are capable of doing. And I don't think they have the heaviness or the weight of, say, like a Close to the Edge or a Dark Side of the Moon, where they feel like an intense, full, beautifully constructed album. These are more like, ooh, look over here, look over here, look over here, and I'm happy. They're just aesthetically pleasing. And then I have one other final thought for you to think about, kind of related to all of this. Anne, when she was talking about metal, said they had to make metal to make Dark Side of the Moon. And I guess fleshing that out a little bit, like I think you need to learn a lot of the tools and tricks and like production tricks, arrangement tricks, all that sort of stuff to get to your big albums. Because it takes a lot to make a Dark Side of the Moon. It takes a lot to make a Close to the Edge. And I think you have to trial out all of the experiments here. So you have to get your Cans and Brahms done. Like you have to get that type of stuff done so that you can see what actually worked. And I actually think that's, for me, the success of Fragile, is they did it, it was fun, they heard what worked, and they used what worked best on the next album, Close to the Edge. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I can think of a lot of examples like that. And it's usually bands that don't have like a big hit with their first album. Because with the big hits with the first album, you see a lot of sophomore slumps for their second. But bands that are just constantly working and grinding and churning, and like usually it's the album that they make right before their big album, like you can see the set dressing, like you're saying. Yeah. Like I can think of, to name some modern bands, you got Death Cab for Cutie and Kings of Leon, just 2 for example, where the album preceding like their big like breakout hits is also very good, and it includes almost all of the same elements as their big breakout album. So
and they just had to trial them out.
Same with
bit.
Modest Mouse.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of bands that this is the case for. Because you mentioned, Ian, that this is the first time that they'd really experimented with doing something like this, and that they were delighted that it just was kind of a happy accident that it all sort of worked out. And I imagine this era of music is rife with a bunch of musicians that were inspired by the Beatles. You know, it was hard to get studio time, so you had to like cut your teeth at least live somehow. But I bet there were tons of bands that tried to make that leap from being a live band to a studio band, and they failed to capture that magic. So it's interesting to think about.
So obviously there's that, where I think capturing a band's sound and their essence in the studio is actually really hard to do. You know, it takes talented engineers and whatnot. I think the other interesting dynamic, so the Beatles, I don't want to say set up an unrealistic expectation, but the Beatles were done touring. They were a famous band with tons of money in the best studio on earth, and they just sat in the studio experimenting and having fun. What's funny about both Pink Floyd and Yes, I think maybe even Genesis, but a lot of these types of famous albums were recorded between tours. So they'd come in, record some bits, go off, come in, record some bits. And, actually with all of these albums, they're just the next thing you had to do. Obviously, I think they tried to make them the best album they could make, but you're just like, yeah, we just need to get 45 minutes on a record somehow, so we're just going to start throwing stuff on. I think the Beatles were in a very weird position where they could really sit and cook up a stew.
Yeah. I liken it to like a video game production or even a film production, is that without the deadline, you could presumably polish what you have until it's perfect. But in music, that's almost never going to be the case outside of your first album, because you've been marinating on that first album forever. And that's why, that creative,
that's what you got,
outburst.
Yeah.
It gets people's attention.
You got to come up with the next thing. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Brutal.
So, final thoughts on the entire album. As the casual outside Yes listener, I really enjoyed it. I haven't really sunk my teeth into their greatest work according to the greatest fans, which, if you're doing a podcast inspired by your love of Yes, I imagine you are among some of the greatest fans of this band.
Yeah. I hope so.
But this is my favorite Yes album. I'll say that definitively of what I've heard.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
I'm excited to hear what you consider to be better.
Well, we'll get to keep you in suspense until next time. So that was Yes is Fragile. I have been your host, Ian Prize, and this has been a sort of young person's guide to prog rock. I want to thank my guests, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Ian.
As always, find us on Instagram at ProgFrogPod. If you have any longer thoughts, queries, questions, opinions, find us on helloprogfrog@gmail.com. As always, rate us wherever you're listening to us. So that was Fragile, a grand success in its own right. But the Yes Boys started to think bigger and edgier, and we'll see where those types of thoughts lead for the next album, Close to the Edge. But next week, join us as we rejoice in the trilogy that is Trilogy.
God, I'm so worried. Like, you're right, Ryan. We're going to get all this hate mail from our millions of listeners.
Wait, we've moved on to Led Zeppelin?